The edge of silence, the sky above the alien city was dark and heavy. 2 moons floated in the sky like quiet watchers. The wind blew strong at the top of the Crystal Tower, the tallest building in the city of Virexa. At the very edge of that tower, a girl stood still, her silver hair flying like ribbons in the wind. Her name was Naira. She looked down, far below, where lights blinked from streets and ships. But none of it mattered to her. No one would miss her. Not her people. Not the council. Not even her father. Her soft blue skin glowed faintly in the moonlight. Her hand shook slightly, not from fear but from sadness. "This is it," she whispered to herself. "No more pain." She stepped forward just 1 foot from the edge. Then, a voice behind her. "If you jump, you'll never know how your story ends." Naira turned quickly, her eyes wide. A man stood a few feet away, calm, unarmed. He wore a black earth uniform with a small flag on his shoulder. His hair was dark, short, and messy. His face looked tired but kind. He was human. "What do you want?" Naira asked, her voice cold. "I want you to step away from the edge," the man said quietly. "Please," she frowned. "Why do you care? You don't even know me." "I don't have to know you to care," he said. "No one should feel like this. Alone. Broken." Naira's lips trembled. "I am broken." The man took a step closer, slowly. "My name is Darren. I was just passing by when I saw you here. I didn't mean to interrupt, but when I saw your face, I couldn't walk away." She stared at him. Her people believed humans were weak, emotional, and soft, but this one, he looked strong. And his voice didn't sound fake. It sounded real, honest. "You don't understand," she said. "I failed my trial. I am a disgrace. They say I'm weak, that I don't belong. I understand more than you think," Darren replied. "I've failed too. I've been told I wasn't good enough, but I didn't jump." She laughed once bitterly. "You don't live in my world. Here, weakness is death. Feelings are shame. And if you're different, you're nothing." Darren looked at her, serious. "Then maybe your world needs to change." Naira felt something strange, a small warmth inside her chest. She hated it. She didn't want hope. Hope only led to more pain. But the human wasn't going away. He took off his jacket and held it out. "It's cold. Come sit with me. Just talk. You don't have to decide anything now." She hesitated. The wind blew harder. Her toes touched the very edge. Then, slowly, she stepped back. Just 1 step, and then another. She walked to him and sat on the rooftop floor, far from the edge. She didn't take the jacket, but she looked at him, curious. "Why are you really here?" she asked. "I was sent here as part of a peace team," Darren said. "Humans and Virexians working together, or at least trying to." She looked away. "Peace means nothing here." "It means everything," Darren said softly. "You're still alive. That means you still have a choice." Naira stared at her hands, the same hands that once held weapons, the same hands that couldn't pass the trial, the same hands she had almost used to end her life. "Maybe I made a mistake," she whispered. "Maybe I was born wrong." "No," Darren said. "You were just born different, and sometimes, different is exactly what the world needs." They sat there for a while, silent. The wind calmed. The moons glowed brighter. For the first time in many years, Naira didn't feel like she was falling. She felt like she was floating. And beside her, a human sat quietly, not trying to fix her, not trying to fight her, just being there. Finally, she turned to him and asked, "Do you really think someone like me could still become something?" Darren smiled. "I don't think it. I believe it." Far below, the lights of the city continued to shine. No one else knew what had happened that night, but something had changed. Naira didn't jump, and a human's simple words had saved her life. The broken star. The night after she almost jumped, Naira didn't sleep. She sat in a quiet room at the Human Outpost, one of the rare buildings in Virexa where outsiders were allowed to stay. The walls were metal, plain and dull, but the bed was soft. A small window showed the night sky. 2 moons watched her again, just as they did from the tower. Only this time she was inside, alive, still breathing, and still unsure why. She held a small silver coin in her hand, a piece from her trial armor. The armor was now broken, like her status. The coin had no value anymore. Just like her, people had said. She remembered what Darren had told her. If you jump, you'll never know how your story ends. Why did those words echo in her mind over and over? She got up and walked to the mirror. Her reflection stared back. Blue skin, silver hair, glowing eyes with a hint of sadness. She didn't look like a warrior, not like her sister did, not like the others in her class who passed the trial. She looked lost. Down the hall, Darren sat in the control room drinking something hot and bitter. Coffee, the humans called it. It reminded him of Earth. His commander's voice buzzed through the screen. You disobeyed direct orders, Sergeant Darren. I didn't interfere in their politics, Darren replied. I just saved someone who was about to end her life. She's not your problem. She is now. A pause. Then the commander spoke again. You've always cared too much. One more mistake and we'll recall you. The call ended. Darren leaned back in his chair. He rubbed his face, tired. This wasn't what he came to Virexa for. He was supposed to observe, keep peace, avoid conflict. But after seeing Naira on that ledge, he knew some rules were worth breaking. In the morning, Naira stepped outside her room. The hallway was quiet. A few human soldiers nodded at her, unsure what to say. She didn't speak to them. Instead, she wandered outside the building into the small training yard. It was empty. She picked up a wooden practice staff from the rack and began to move. Slow, sharp motions. Her body remembered the patterns even if her heart didn't. She spun, blocked, stepped forward and struck, then again and again, until she dropped the staff, breathing hard. A clap. She turned. It was Darren, watching from the gate. You're good. She looked away. Not good enough. You believed that before you met me, he said, walking closer. Still do? I don't know. He stood beside her, quiet for a moment. Then he said, Want to see something? A few minutes later, they stood inside a small observation room. Darren tapped on the screen and a hologram appeared. It showed a younger version of him, failing a training mission back on Earth. The footage was old, grainy. He fell again and again while others passed him. I failed out of cadet training 3 times, Darren said. They said I'd never make it as a soldier. I was clumsy. I cried too much. I froze under pressure. But you're here, Naira said. I came back. I worked harder. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove to myself that I could be more. She stared at the screen. She had never seen a human being so open about failure. In her world, failure was hidden, buried, punished. You're not like my people, she whispered. And maybe you're not like yours. Darren said gently, maybe that's not a bad thing. Later that night, Naira stood in front of the mirror again, but this time she didn't see a failure. She saw someone different, someone in between, a broken star still shining. She touched her face and whispered, What am I supposed to become now? Suddenly the door beeped. A human soldier walked in with a message. This came for you. It's marked with your family seal. Naira opened the small metal box. Inside was a single letter. No words. Just a broken piece of her combat staff and a line of Virexian writing. You are not welcome home. Her hands shook. She dropped the box. Darren heard the noise and came, running. He saw the letter, the broken staff. She looked at him with red, teary eyes. They cast me out. I have nothing. Darren picked up the broken piece. No, he said quietly. You have something now. You have a second chance. That night, Naira didn't cry. Instead, she walked to the training yard again. She picked up the broken staff piece and began training, faster, harder, with new fire. She wasn't fighting to belong anymore. She was fighting to rebuild herself, and far above, the two moons still watched. But now, so did someone else. Someone who believed in her. The council's warning: the sun never fully rose in Virexa. It only glowed softly, hidden behind thick blue clouds that covered the sky like a blanket. Shadows stretched across the city, making everything look cold even during the day. Inside the high hall of Virexian elders, whispers floated like smoke. The girl is alive. She was seen with the human again. She should have been gone. Why? Did she return? The room grew silent as Elder Voss, the head of the council, stepped forward. His eyes were dark like stone, his voice sharp as a blade. She has brought shame to us, and now she brings danger. He slammed his staff on the floor. The sound echoed across the chamber. Far away at the human peace outpost, Naira sat on a rock under a glowing tree. Her hands were wrapped in bandages, training burns. Her body hurt. Her soul still hurt more, but she wasn't weak anymore. Darren walked up behind her. He handed her a water flask and sat beside her in silence. "Do you ever think," Naira said softly, "that maybe I should have jumped?" Darren didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I never turned around that night. If I had kept walking. If I hadn't seen you." He looked at her. "But I did see you. And that moment changed everything." Naira took a deep breath. "It changed me too." That evening, a silver drone flew over the outpost and dropped a sealed scroll at the gate. The message was not from Earth, it was from the Virexian Council. Darren read the glowing red symbols and his jaw tightened. "What does it say?" Naira asked. He handed it to her. Her fingers trembled as she read. "You are to return at once. If you do not, the human will face consequences. You have until the next moon cycle." Naira's heart dropped. "They're threatening you," she whispered. Darren crossed his arms. "They won't scare me." "You don't understand," she said, eyes wide. "The council, they don't give warnings. If they sent this, it means they're watching us." "Let them watch." "No," she snapped. "You don't know what they're capable of. They killed my uncle for speaking out. They erased my cousin's name from history because he fell in love with someone from Earth." Darren looked at her quietly. "What will they do to you?" She lowered her eyes. They already did it. Later that night, she dreamed of fire. She was back at the trial, swords clashing, her breath heavy, the judges watching coldly. She reached for her final weapon, but it turned to ash in her hand. She heard their voices again. "Unfit. Broken. Emotion is weakness." She screamed in the dream, but no sound came out. When she woke up, Darren was standing in the doorway, watching her with concern. "You were crying," he said softly. "I hate that they still live in my head," she whispered. "They don't get to control your thoughts anymore." The next morning, something changed. A large alien ship landed near the city center. It was dark red and shaped like a claw. From it, soldiers marched, dressed in black armor, faces covered. They weren't here for peace. They were council enforcers. Darren and Naira watched from a rooftop. "They're here for you," Darren said. "No," she replied. "They're here for both of us." She turned to him, her voice stronger than ever. "I have to go to the council hall. I have to face them. You don't have to do this alone." "Yes, I do. They won't speak to a human, but maybe they'll listen to their own kind." Darren stared at her. "Be careful." "I will." Inside the council hall, everything was colder than she remembered. The elders sat in their stone chairs, watching her like she was a stranger. Elder Voss stood. "You have returned," he said. "That shows some honor." "I came to speak," Naira replied, voice clear. "You came because we let you live." She stood taller. "I came because I have something to say." The room grew still. "You cast me out. You broke me. But I didn't die. And I didn't turn against you. I trained, I learned, I grew. And now I see what you fear. Elder Voss narrowed his eyes. And what is that? You fear change, she said. You fear truth. You fear that someone like me, someone who feels, someone who cries, could become stronger than you ever were. Voss slammed his hand on the table. Silence, but she didn't stop. I will not let you hurt the human who saved me, and I will not be your secret anymore. As she walked out of the hall, guards followed her. They didn't arrest her, but one of them whispered, "They won't forget this." She didn't look back. "I don't want them to," she replied. Back at the outpost, Darren waited. When he saw her walking toward him, alive, unhurt, standing tall, he smiled. They didn't. "Kill me," she said. He laughed. "That's a good start." But then her face turned serious. "They gave me a warning, a final one. If I stay with you, they'll come." Darren looked into her eyes. "Then let them come." When fire falls from the sky, the ground began to shake. It wasn't an earthquake, it wasn't a storm, it was something worse. Above the skies of Virexa, the clouds split in half. A huge red warship, the High Council's battle cruiser, descended like a monster from an old legend. It roared as it moved, burning trails through the air. The people below stopped what they were doing. They looked up in silence. Some dropped to their knees. Others ran to their homes. But at the human outpost, Naira stood still, eyes fixed on the ship. "They came," she whispered. Darren walked up behind her. They came early. The message came just minutes later. A hologram appeared in the middle of the outpost. Elder Voss, his face large and filled with anger. "Return the girl to the council. Now. If you do not, this ship will fire." Darren stared at the screen. They're threatening to bomb an entire outpost because of one person? "She's not a person to them," Naira said quietly. "She's a mistake they want to erase." Within the hour, military trucks lined up. Human soldiers at the base were ordered to prepare for evacuation. Peace agreements were suspended. Talks were over. Darren was called to the command room. His commander's voice was sharp. "Send the girl back. We cannot start a war." "No," Darren said. "You don't get to say no. She has rights." "She is not human," the commander shouted. "And she's not our responsibility." Darren's voice didn't rise, but his words cut deep. "Then maybe she's mine." The room went quiet. Outside, Naira packed her few things. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She just moved like someone who already made peace with her ending. When Darren returned, she looked at him calmly. "They'll kill you too if you don't let me go." He stepped in front of her, blocking the door. "They'll have to go through me. Don't be foolish." "I'm not," Darren said. "I've just finally found something worth standing for." Moments later, the sky turned red again. The warship above began to charge its weapon. You could feel the air hum. Even the metal in the walls vibrated. People screamed and ran for shelter. One of the human officers shouted, "They've locked on. We need to leave now." Naira grabbed Darren's arm. "Please, don't die for me." He looked into her eyes and said something soft, something only she heard. "Then live for both of us." Suddenly, a sharp alarm screamed through the base. The council ship had fired, but not at the outpost. The shot hit the edge of the city, a warning strike. A piece of a tower exploded, debris falling like burning rain. Everyone ducked. But Darren and Naira stood in the open. Then, something strange happened. From the city below, people started filming them, sending messages, sharing live feeds. Someone yelled, "Why is the council trying to kill a girl who hasn't done anything wrong?" And another, "Why is she standing with the human?" For the first time, eyes from both worlds were watching and questioning. Inside the warship, Elder Voss clenched his fist. "She's turning the people against us. End it." A soldier hesitated. "But she's just a girl," Voss growled. "She's a symbol now, and symbols must be crushed." Back at the outpost, Naira made a choice. She walked to the main platform, stood in front of every camera, and spoke in her people's language. You called me broken. You told me I was unfit. You said I was nothing. She looked up at the ship. Then, why are you so afraid of nothing? Her voice didn't shake. Her eyes didn't blink. If being different means death, then so be it. But I will not live in silence anymore. That night, the council didn't fire again. They waited, watched, planned. But something had changed. The people had seen the truth, and the truth didn't disappear, not even when fire fell from the sky. The secret room. The night was silent after the attack. Too silent. No more warnings came from the council's warship. No more missiles. No more threats. Just silence. And silence was dangerous. Naira stood alone in the training yard, staring up at the sky. The red lights from the enemy ship flickered in the clouds like blinking eyes. Watching, waiting. But she wasn't afraid. Something inside her had changed. Something was waking up. Earlier that day, she had found an old key hidden inside the base. An object unlike anything human made. It was smooth, dark metal with ancient markings, Virexian symbols. She recognized one of them. It was the seal of her mother. Her breath caught. Naira's mother had died when she was just a child, lost in a lab accident, or so they said. But now, looking at this key, something didn't feel right. Why would her mother's symbol be hidden in a human base? Why was it here? She didn't tell Darren, not yet. Instead, she followed the map etched on the key, symbols that glowed only under moonlight, and beneath the mountain behind the outpost. She found a door. It wasn't just a door. It was an entrance to a forgotten lab, hidden beneath the rock. Metal rusted, lights dim, but it was real. She stepped inside slowly, the key pulsing in her palm. As she entered, lights flickered on, one by one. The hallway was narrow. Dust floated in the air. Screens blinked to life. Her heart raced. Old memories came back. Flashes of her mother's voice, her touch, her warmth. This place, it belonged to her. Inside the final chamber, a recording started playing. A hologram appeared. It was her mother. Soft voice, long silver hair, warm blue skin, just like Naira. She gasped and dropped to her knees. "Hello, little star," the hologram said, smiling gently. "If you're watching this, it means they told you nothing, just like they did to me." Naira's hands trembled. "I was a scientist," the recording continued. "I worked on human Virexian studies. I believed we could share knowledge, share peace, share life." She paused. "Then I fell in love with a human." Naira's eyes widened, her voice cracked. "My father wasn't Virexian?" The hologram continued. "They called it betrayal. They erased everything. They tried to erase you too. But I hid this place. I left clues. I prayed one day you'd find it." The image flickered, but her mother's voice stayed strong. "You are not broken, Naira. You are the bridge. You are both." Tears rolled down her cheeks. All her life she had been told she was too soft, too human, too different. Now she knew why. She was part human, and the council had hidden it, feared it, because it meant the war between worlds didn't need to exist. Because it meant peace was possible. Footsteps echoed behind her. She turned quickly. Darren stood in the doorway. He had followed her. "You found it," he said softly. She didn't speak, just nodded, still shaking. He stepped closer and wrapped his arms around her gently. "You're not a mistake," he whispered. "You're a miracle." Back at the council's warship, chaos brewed. Their spies reported the secret had been found. Elder Voss threw a glass across the chamber. She knows the truth." Another elder warned. "The people will follow her if she speaks." Voss turned, furious. Then she must not speak, not ever again. At the base, Naira walked outside with Darren. Her face was calm, but her heart was burning. She looked up at the stars. I thought I had no past, she whispered. Now I know. I was born to build the future. Darren nodded. You ready for what comes next? She took his hand. No, she said. But I'm not afraid anymore. And beneath the mountain, in that secret room, the final message from her mother still glowed softly. They will come for you, little star. But remember this. Light shines brightest in the dark. The trial of truth. The city square had never been this full. Virexians filled every corner. On rooftops, in streets, even on flying platforms above. The council had summoned a public trial, the OR, first in over 50 years. They called it a matter of honor and law, but everyone knew what it really was. They wanted to silence Naira, and they wanted to make an example of the human who stood by her. At the center of the square, a tall stage was built from black stone, cold, unforgiving. 2 chairs stood under the burning red sun, one for Naira, one for Darren. They weren't bound, but the message was clear. You are not free, not anymore. Darren sat calmly. His Earth uniform was dusty but straight. His hands rested in his lap. But his eyes never left the crowd. Naira stood beside him, straight-backed, shoulders firm. She didn't wear armor. She wore her mother's robe, found in the secret lab, blue with golden patterns. The ancient sign of the Bridge clans, those who once believed in peace between humans and Virexians. The robe glowed gently in the light, just like she did. The elders stood on a platform high above them. Elder Voss wore ceremonial black. His face was stone, cold, angry. A voice echoed through. The square, the accused will speak. Naira stepped forward first. The crowd went silent. She took a deep breath. My name is Naira, daughter of the scientist Ilari, born of 2 worlds, Virexian and human. Gasps filled the air. Elder Voss shouted, Lies. Her mother died long ago. There was no human. Naira raised a glowing device in her hand. My mother left this recording. I found it in the secret lab your council tried to erase. A projection began. Her mother's voice played in front of everyone. If you see this, it means I failed to stop them. But maybe my daughter still can. The crowd stared. Truth had a sound, and they were hearing it. Voss slammed his staff. This trial is not about her past. It's about her crimes. She threatened peace. She disrespected the council. Darren stood. I was there. She never threatened peace. She stood up against violence. She stopped others from dying. She refused to be silenced. Voss pointed a finger. You, human, you are the poison in our city. I'm not the poison, Darren said. I'm the proof that peace is possible. You just hate that she found it. The crowd murmured louder now. Some whispered. Some nodded. The elders were losing control. Another elder tried to speak but was drowned by voices in the square. Why are we afraid of her? She's telling the truth. Let her speak. Voss's voice cracked with rage. She is a half-blood. She is the past's mistake. Naira looked directly at him. No, she said. I am the future you fear. A young warrior from the crowd stepped forward. He removed his helmet. My sister was like her. Kind. Brave. She took her own life because the council made her feel worthless. His voice broke. I wish she had met someone like Naira. Others began to stand. An old Virexian mother, a young student, a worker, a soldier. One by one, they raised their hands. They were choosing. And they were choosing her. Elder Voss shouted, This is not a vote, but the people no longer listened. They weren't afraid anymore. Suddenly, guards moved forward. Blasters charged. Voss pointed at Naira. Seize them both! Darren stepped in front of her. But before the guards could move, half of them paused, then dropped their weapons. One of them looked at Voss and said loudly, I won't hurt someone who speaks the truth. And then, more followed. The line between power and fear broke. Right there, on that stage, Naira stepped forward once more. She raised her voice, clear and strong. I am not your shame. I am not your failure. I am not your weakness. I am your mirror, and I will not break. By nightfall, the council was no longer in power. Elder Voss vanished. Some say he fled. Others say he was taken by those he once ruled. No one looked for him. No one cared. Darren and Naira sat quietly on the same Blackstone stage hours later. But now, the people stood around them in respect. She looked at him and whispered, Did we win? He smiled. No, not yet. But we finally stopped losing, and above them the stars began to shine brighter, not just for her, but for everyone. The jump that never happened 1 year later. The skies above Virexa were clear for the first time in decades. No warships, no smoke, just stars, and 2 soft moons, watching quietly, like they always did. At the edge of the same crystal tower where she once stood ready to jump, Naira stood again. But this time, she was smiling. A small crowd had gathered at the base of the tower. Virexians of all ages stood, holding candles. Children held flags, half blue, half white, the symbol of unity between humans and Virexians. And right in the middle of the crowd was a tall bronze statue. It showed a girl with silver hair, standing tall, her arms open, not in fear, but in strength. Beside her, a human in uniform held her hand. Together they faced the sky, the plaque below read, The jump that never happened, the day hope chose to stay. On top of the tower, Naira took a deep breath. The wind touched her face, but it didn't scare her anymore. She wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. She was leading. Footsteps behind her. Darren walked up wearing a black jacket with the same unity flag on the shoulder. His smile hadn't changed. Still soft, still steady. You always come here on this day, he said. It reminds me, Naira replied. Of what? That I was once seconds away from disappearing, and that one voice changed everything. She looked at him. Your voice. Darren chuckled. I just said a few words. They were the right ones, she said. They stood together for a while, watching the city below. A new city. The council was gone. In its place was the Unity Assembly, made up of both humans and Virexians. Schools now taught both languages. New laws protected the different ones, the half-bloods, the thinkers, the dreamers, people who once hid, now led. And at the center of this change was a girl who once thought she had no future. Did you ever think we'd make it this far? Darren asked. Naira smiled. No, but I knew we had to try. She reached into her robe and pulled out something, small, the silver coin, a broken piece from her old trial armor. She looked at it, then tossed it gently into the wind. It sparkled as it fell, vanishing into the light. Goodbye, she whispered, to the girl I used to be. A young Virexian girl climbed the stairs and reached them. She wore a simple robe and carried a notebook. Naira turned and smiled. You came. I had to, the girl said shyly. I wanted to say thank you. For what? Naira asked gently. For showing me I don't have to be afraid of who I am. Naira placed a hand on her shoulder. You never did. You were just waiting to remember. Back in the crowd, someone strummed a guitar. Music floated up the tower. People laughed, hugged, shared food, told stories, stories that once weren't allowed to be told. As the 2 moons climbed higher in the sky, Darren looked over at Naira. What happens now? He asked. She looked at the stars. Now, she said, we make sure no one else ever stands on this ledge and feels like they're alone. He nodded. Then they both turned and walked away from the edge, together. And so the girl who almost jumped became the voice that helped others rise, and the human who once broke the rules became the reason the stars felt safe again. Because, in the end, it wasn't about war, it wasn't about blood, it was about one truth. Sometimes, saving one life saves the future. The end.